Good morning. It is time to talk SEC football. I'm your host, Chris Lee of Southeastern 16, joined by my co-host, Jay Greeson. Jason Greeson joins me. I mean, you know what that means. You never know where this is going to go.
Never do.
You don't know what's coming next. I mean, we may find Pat Dye's pants at the bottom of the lake somewhere when Jay Greeson's around.
Trying to think if no. But we never know where it's going to go.
I stumped you for once. If you missed that story, we had it yesterday, and it was a good one. We'll recycle that at some. Are you doing the show with pants today?
I am wearing pants. I'm at the Times Free Press here in Greater Chattanooga, Tennessee area. If you see me at home, it's coin flip whether there's pants involved.
I'm not going to ask you to prove it either way. Well, I think it'll, save our viewers that way. But hey, seriously, all joking aside, we appreciate you joining us. Shout out to our sponsors, ROKFORM and GameTime. SIDEKICKS, we'll tell you about them briefly. But hey, it is media day in Atlanta. It's the last day. We have Arkansas, Kentucky, Missouri, and A&M up today. A lot of that's been done. Missouri went this morning. We're not going to talk a lot of Arkansas today unless we got some Razorbacks in the chat. You want to hit that, we'll do it. By the way, a lot of our show is going to be dictated by what you guys want to talk about. So drop that in the chat. Super chats are always welcome. That helps us here at the channel. We love those. If you drop something in the super chat, I guarantee you that we will address it and get to it. So anyway, I think we're going to lead with Missouri this morning. Jay, well, let's go here.
All right.
I think this is one of the more perennially underrated teams in the league. And I was talking to my buddy Gabe DeArmond this morning, who's one of my best friends in the business, covers Missouri for a long time. He says, I talked to people. He said almost nobody was in the building this morning when Eli talked. Not a team that gets a lot of publicity. And I wonder sometimes if that contributes to us sleeping on Missouri. Because I look at this roster. Now, there's some questions. We're going to get into those. But, hey, Lane Kiffin calls himself the portal king. I'm not sure he's the best portal king in his own league sometimes, because Eli Drinkwitz has really, really been a guy who has used the portal and NIL to get Missouri to a pretty consistently good level. I feel like he's done it again this year, Jay.
Well, Lane Kiffin's going to describe himself as whatever king in whatever conversation is happening, because that's who Lane Kiffin is. But LSU got the best portal class, and Missouri may have gotten – look, I'm unbelievably high on Eric Singleton at Auburn, but the Coleman kid from Mississippi State that Missouri got is going to be a huge piece to replace Luther Burden. And the edge rusher they got from Georgia is a difference maker. So star rankings and numbers and formulas and all that other stuff, man, I'll leave those up to guys who got to take their shoes off to figure out once they get beyond 10. But Missouri got difference makers in the portal.
And I'm not even sure you mentioned the biggest one yet. I mean, we'll wait and see, but Ahmad Hardy at Louisiana Monroe last year put up some eye-popping numbers. Now, sometimes that translates, sometimes it doesn't. They got a transfer quarterback who we've talked about X factors in the league. Bo Pribula is right up there in that conversation. I don't know what he's going to be.
All right, hey, I'm picking nits here. Picking nits. And he may prove me 100% wrong, and he may be the world's best teammate. Red flag to me. And I like everything Drink is doing there. I really do. I think Missouri has found a star in the future. I don't know how, as a backup quarterback with your team going into the playoff, you hop in the portal. I don't know how you do that. He left Penn State before the playoff. Had a chance to get a ring. Teammates needed you at that position. I mean, I'm sorry, and I know this is a different age. It's a different age where these kids are cashing checks that we've never seen before. And I don't know that kid, so I can't make anything. All I'm saying is a guy who has a certain level of expectation for my quarterbacks This is a red flag to me. So, and this is a quarterback-driven league now. I don't know if you saw it. The Athletic put out, not unlike how a lot of like Pro Football Focus and a lot of these guys put out the NFL quarterback tiers. The Athletic put out a college, an FBS quarterback tier ranking, all 136. You want to guess how many of the top 10 quarterbacks in the country are in the SEC?
7.
It's 5.
And
there's 2 more in order. It goes Nussmeier, Sellers, Mateer, Lagway, Manning. And that's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 10 in their eyes.
There's one common denominator there. See if you can spot it.
They're right-handed?
Well, that's one.
Okay, well, then I spotted it then, by God.
Good job, my man. That's why we pay
There
you
you
big
go.
bucks here. No, I was thinking, like, all those guys, none of them have had more than 1 year of starting experience, right? And Arch hasn't had a year yet.
Yeah.
Give me the names. Nussmeier, 1 year.
Yep.
Placed the backup time before. You
Sellers,
said Lagway? Sellers for sure.
Well,
Lagway.
How long did Mateer play? He only played 1 year at Washington State.
He might have 2. I'll have to look that up.
Hey, that dude was impressive on Wednesday. That dude was impressive making the rounds in the media room on Wednesday.
Okay, Mateer, yeah, he's had 1 year as the full-time starter, 2 years as a backup before that. And I think this is a reason I think that the SEC is just so up for grabs this year. I mean, look, you mentioned those guys. If you want to talk experience, it's hold my beer when you get to some of these other teams. I mean, you know, we've talked so much about Georgia and Alabama, but they've got first-year starters at quarterback. I mean, if you go on experience, I guess you're leading at Vandy.
Of course you are.
Yeah.
That guy's as old as I am.
Right. But I mean, my point is like, and it's never really occurred to me till just now, like there are not a lot of guys in this league that have played a lot of ball. I mean, they've given you maybe 1 good year or they've shown you potential. They were highly rated out of high school. I mean, I feel like everybody in this league, Kentucky might be another one. Zach Calzada has played a lot of ball. Not necessarily always good ball.
Played it poorly. He was dead last among the SEC quarterbacks.
Yeah.
In the tiers. I'll tell you one that shocked me. Pavi was in the teens. Jackson Arnold was in the mid-30s. Austin Simmons was right behind Jackson Arnold. And then 10, 11, 12 among league quarterbacks in the high 40s is where you found Ty Simpson and Gunnar Stockton.
Yeah. I mean, well, I'll give you another. Taylon Green. Taylon Green's played a good bit of ball at a couple of stops. But, I mean, we're making guesses on these teams based on whatever your opinion of a quarterback is that you've barely seen play college football in a lot of cases. And that's why I think the league is probably more open this year than people perceive.
See, I don't ever really think this league's wide open. This is a talent-driven league. This is a money-driven league.
Okay.
How many teams do you really think can be in Atlanta? 5?
I mean, to me, Texas, Georgia, Alabama, tier 1. You with me there?
I am.
But a lot of that is, okay, and to your point, I'm going to say I think partially yes and partially no. Like, I think the top tier is established because you got so many blue chippers. You have questions within those at quarterback with Alabama, with all 3 of them, right? Because of experience. And then I think you've got LSU, which has got questions, but they're in maybe the top of the next tier because they have more experience at quarterback relatively. So it works both ways a little bit here.
It works both ways, but the 4 teams you just mentioned in order, the betting odds are Texas, Georgia, Alabama, LSU, and the FPI and the guys who are way smarter than me and hope to one day be as smart as my son, they put computer numbers on it, and all of those teams have more than like a 13% chance to win the league. Everybody else is less than 5. And the next two are Tennessee and Texas A&M.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe my biggest question. Like, here's how I see it. I don't know who to take in that top 3 of teams. LSU 4, to me, kind of a tier on its own, and then 5 through 14-ish. Good luck to you. Is that fair?
Well, and it has a lot to do with the guy in Birmingham who set the schedule. It has a lot to do with any of these teams with huge question marks at quarterback, but feel really good about the rest of their roster. I mean, if Mateer's a dude, Oklahoma defensively is salty. So same can be said with Jackson Arnold, because Auburn's got to feel real good about a lot of its pieces.
Yeah.
Is DJ Lagway going to have a wide receiver that he can trust? Because Eugene Wilson looks the part, but if he can't stay on the field, then, I mean, it's a name before a lot of our viewers and listeners' time, but it always you see guys like that. It reminds me of Ronaldo Nehemiah trying to make it with the
Niners
in the early 80s, because he could run like a 4.140, but if you sneezed on him, he got hurt. So, I mean, it feels like everybody but Georgia and Texas and have got way more answers than they do questions. And yeah, both of them, we can shrug our shoulders and say, well, Arch hadn't proven it against good competition. Gunnar Stockton's got limited experience. And yeah, all that's true. But they got bona fide dudes everywhere else now. Everywhere else.
All right, back to Missouri. I'm with you on Bo Pribula. I mean, and I was a little worried as a Titans fan, and it was a different thing. But like, I had a little bias against Cam Ward when we took him 1 overall, because I mean there were some questions, but I didn't like the whole bowl game thing where he got the record and then he sat out the second half. That doesn't seem to faze anybody anymore but me. But I look for stuff like that, and maybe it just was a one-off thing. I mean, he killed his interviews. People rave about him as a person. Maybe it just was a thing that's not a thing. But I'm with you. I'm not – look, I get it. Drew Aller is a first-round prospect potentially next year. Although when I watch him play, I don't know that I get it. But that's what the people that do this for a living tell me. I'll trust some of that for now. So I get it. You're his backup. You know you're not going to play next year. But if you're that good, are you not going to have options on the other side of the playoff? I guess maybe you miss a window for spring practice potentially. But come on, I'm with you. I don't like a guy that's going to walk out on his team when it's got everything to play for. And I know, and again, I know he wasn't the guy. It hits differently if you're starting quarterback, but he's one hit away from being that guy.
Migrating Coconuts, which is a great handle, by the way. I have seen the little film on Bo as well, and he is a bona fide. He's a run-first quarterback. He is a dude that will lower his shoulder and truck you. And we've had some Missouri fans in here early. I loved the vibe Eli Drinkwitz delivered from the podium today. He was trying to be funny. He was trying to be relaxed, and he was. I mean, I'm not saying that he failed in either of those, but the 3 guys who left the podium this week, who to me, and I know we got a couple more later today, it screams a subtle confidence about what they see in their football team are Brent Venables, Eli Drinkwitz, and the other one just ran directly out of my head. Billy Napier.
Kirby Smart?
No,
okay.
Billy Napier. Of course, Kirby Smart's confident in his team. He's got 14 guys that everybody would trade anybody you wanted on their roster.
Well, yes, of course. But here's my point with Kirby. He was not as combative this time. He was more relaxed, and he's always looking to pick a fight at the podium. I didn't get that vibe this year. That was my only pushback on that. But your point remains. Yeah.
I want to give Tyler some flowers right here because he and I have had a pretty good conversation back and forth. Dude, everybody slept on Brady Cook because that dude was a warrior. And I say this with the highest praise possible. It needs to be the ultimate honor. Brady Cook's jersey needs to be hanging in Missouri State.
Yes.
That guy probably cost himself millions playing for hundreds of thousands in NIL money because he has an NFL body and an NFL throwing motion. But that dude left everything in Columbia.
Well, look, I won't give you all the details, but one of the things that sticks in my mind is there was a game, I don't remember which one it was, but Brady Cook was basically out. And let's just say Brady Cook did everything he could to play that game.
It was the Auburn game.
Was it the Auburn game?
Yeah, they took him to the hospital, shot him up with some horse tranquilizers, and hustled his ass back out on the field. Well,
I didn't know how much of that story was publicly known, but now that you've said it, yes, that's what happened. And then and look, that Missouri team, I thought it was underrated coming into that year. I really did, because you looked at the roster, and again, nobody is talking about Missouri ever. Your conversation is Texas, Alabama, Georgia, whatever weird thing is going on at Tennessee, whatever dysfunction or coach firings at Florida, your drama, and like that's the routine of things in SEC football talk, right? It's always around those things. If a Vandy pops up and beats Alabama, their topic for 15 minutes. But other than that, it's that whoever's on the hot seat, whatever. We never talk about Missouri. I mean, I say we talk about him, but Missouri is never front page topic for anybody about anything. And I thought that the supporting cast was really good 2 years ago. And I'm on record. I went on Mike Bratton's podcast. He said, give me a sleeper team for this year. And I didn't blink. I said Missouri. Now, to be fair, I struck out on a couple of mine last year, so I'm not going to say I always get it right. But I nailed that one because I looked at these supporting cast. I look at what they brought in. You factor in the reason they're not that highly rated is because they're Missouri. Nobody's talking about them. They're not front page news. And what was the thing that made it all come together, Jay Greeson? Is what you just mentioned. It was Brady Cook. So now you're in this situation where you have a quarterback who wasn't the most talented guy in the league, but he and a tailback just played all out. Nobody was talking about Cook or Schrader before the season. Those guys willed them to a double-digit win season. Well, and now you've got almost, I don't know if the anti-Brady Cook is fair. A guy with talent, guy that can run, but again, a guy who left his team in the middle of the playoff, and that is kind of the opposite of what Brady Cook did at Missouri. He was always Missouri first. He loved that school. You listen to him speak of his love for the school. When a guy that does that, are you loving the school or are you loving yourself?
And as we wrap up giving Missouri their flowers, this is an important stat. In the last 2 years of SEC play, which can't count Texas because they've had 1 year in the SEC, only Georgia's won more games the last 2 years than Missouri.
Schedule is factored in for sure. I mean, and speaking of which, and again, you only play the schedule you're dealt. I'm not saying this to knock Missouri, but let me pull this up and make sure I got it right. Yeah, I mean, they got one of the easier ones again. Okay, first of all, gosh, let me find. They don't hit the road till what, end of October?
It's their first 6 games. They don't get on a plane until week 7. I think it's October 18th going to Auburn.
Yeah. Now, look, there's some games that aren't easy in there. Kansas will not be easy, maybe week 2. Lance Leipold, really good coach. South Carolina, not going to be easy in the western half of Columbia. And then you get Alabama, but you also get a bye week in front of Alabama, which is nice. Yeah, I mean, things are set up if they catch a break or two. Again, if it's like last year, where all that matters is how many did you lose, I think maybe we should be giving a little bit more talk to Missouri as a playoff team.
Well, that's overstating it.
Okay.
I mean,
what's a sure loss on their schedule, Jay?
On their schedule, I'm calling it up because I didn't have it in front of me. But somehow I got Missouri driver's test schedule.
Is the universe trying to tell you something?
They'll be an underdog with Alabama comes there, rightly or wrongly.
Right.
They'll be an underdog at Auburn. They'll be an underdog at Oklahoma. But you bring up a fair point, but the reverse of that's also true in this modern age, because you and I have been banging the drum on the need for the committee to look at who's in the W column, not just the number in the W column.
Yeah.
Because that schedule's so easy. There are a lot of SEC teams that with their schedule, if they go 9-3, they're in the playoff conversation.
Yeah.
Missouri's going to have to go 10-2 because you got no Georgia, you've got no LSU, and you've got no Texas on your schedule, and you get Alabama and Texas A&M at home. You that best be 10-2 if you're going to seriously talk about a playoff spot.
Yeah. Okay, that leads me to, do we think it's going to change this year? I mean, the network, the coaches have been banging that drum nonstop in Atlanta, as well they should. You just never know. I mean, what's the committee going to do? Do we think the public pressure and the narrative has gotten there enough to where it changes things? Or is the committee just going to do what it does a year ago and just say, how many did you lose? And by the way, the SEC is the conference that's picked this fight. Not unfairly, by the way. But you know how much outside the SEC is hated. And I'm just wondering, do they do that again to stick it to the league? Do you leave a 3-loss team out that deserves it based on the wins like I thought Alabama deserved a year ago? I mean, because, the committee is picked by humans. How many times do you see a guy that is on the committee who's got a bubble team in basketball, suddenly that team mysteriously gets in? Maybe not so mysteriously. Here's what I'm wondering. It is a talking point. It feels like that's the way the universe should be going. But with all the ill will that the league has built up, I feel like the committee could do what it did a year ago and lean on what it did as a way to stick it to the SEC.
I mean, they're going to do exactly whatever the hell they want to do because there is zero transparency. So,
right. I
mean, I'd rather chase windmills and try to get inside the head of those 12 people in that room who may or may not have watched any football before the week before the playoff selection is done. Yeah.
I think if you really get down to it, that is what's holding up the whole playoff thing. Because you've got a league, you've got a universe that's yelling at the SEC. You don't play anybody outside of the league, which is not true. You just have that, that November FCS Saturday that it has every year, or some of the teams now schedule those earlier in the year. And everybody's yelling, well, hey, look, you padded your season with the win over Charleston Southern or the Citadel, which is true, but it's nowhere near the whole picture. Like the anti-SEC crowd is really honed in on that aspect of SEC scheduling. And you've got the league on the other side saying, great, which one of you turkeys wants to come play who we're playing right now? And the answer that you heard many times in Atlanta was nobody does. Nobody wants to come do this. And so the SEC has now called out everybody else's hypocrisy on this out-of-league scheduling thing. And now I think we have this big game of chicken, which is holding up better college football. It's the SEC going, we don't want to lose more games. College football, Jay, is going to be better the minute we see more, SEC on Big Ten, SEC on a good ACC team, somebody playing Boise State out of the league. And until we get this thing ironed out where strength of schedule matters, you're going to continue to see more crappy games on Saturday because that's what we have now incentivized.
Now, conversely, though, ESPN's paying the freight for a whole lot of all this expansion and NIL funding and revenue share. ESPN doesn't want any part of a repeat of last year's playoff where SMU and Boise State get pantsed and it turns into bad TV and everybody's turning the TV off 10 minutes into the third quarter.
Okay, and I agree with you, which is why I think this is eventually where we're going to move once everybody gets what it is they want, because for TV inventory, there's a lot more money to be made with Oklahoma playing Clemson than there is with Oklahoma playing, Arkansas Little Rock. And eventually economics dictate everything, and that's where we move. But I think until you get – I think honest to God, the minute they give strength of schedule more credence, football gets better for everyone.
I agree.
I mean, how many games have now been canceled by teams across college football against a Power 5 opponent because nobody wanted to pick up an L somewhere?
Well, and the reverse of, and added to that fact of the scheduling is a lot of these small college towns. I mean, not necessarily Austin, because Austin's a tourist destination regardless of if Texas is playing football at home. But the Auburns and the Starkvilles and the Oxfords, if you're playing either more conference games, and some years you would then have fewer home games, or you're playing neutral site games, you can't afford to go to fewer than 7 home games because of your local economy, which is the core of your boosters, which is the core economic driver of the entire town.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait to see it get fixed because I think that changes a lot. I think it's going to make college football a better product. I already think you're getting a better product with the parity having leveled out somewhat at the top. Again, it's a lot of the same schools. It's your Ohio States, it's your Michigans, it's your Alabamas, it's your Georgias, but nobody's running away from the pack at the moment. And the thing that I've always said that drives me bananas about the playoff and about college football, we try to rank these teams. We try to make a discussion of who's good and who's not. The truth is, a Penn State and Ohio State, a lot of those teams, especially in the Big Ten, where the middle and the bottom of the league is soft compared to the SEC. You line up the right schedule, it's almost impossible to miss the playoff. It's harder to do that in the SEC. And when we arrive at that point where scheduling good on good is important across all levels of college football, we're going to get a better product. Not just in the playoffs, but week in and week out.
I agree with that. We got an interesting question from, I forget whose handle it was, about one more final Missouri topic. Could they get College Game Day week 2 when they host Kansas? Not when ABC is showing Michigan at Oklahoma in primetime.
Yeah, I was looking down the schedule. That's the one that stands in the way. It's a pretty weak schedule inside the SEC. I'm looking at, like, I'm having to squint to find the interesting matchups. And here you go, Kentucky and Ole Miss just because of last year. Mississippi State and Arizona State. And the fact that I'm mentioning that proves my point about it being a weak slate, which is probably why the question was asked. But Vanderbilt, Virginia Tech, I mean, that's your only 3 games that are of any competitive interest, unless like you get a rivalry situation at Florida, South Florida. Not that that's going to be a game day, but it is a bad slate of games that week.
I'd bet just about all the money in my pocket. and I still operate primarily as a cash guy as opposed to a credit card guy, I'd bet all of it that if they're given two choices between Kansas at Missouri or Michigan at Oklahoma, with those two brands and ABC getting to show a Big Ten team that is regularly on the Fox big noon kickoff. Because, hey, a lot of people don't talk about this, Chris, but over the last couple of years, the big noon kickoff has become the most important, or at least the most watched window, surpassing the 3:30 CBS slot and the nighttime new ABC ESPN slot. And I can only imagine Disney and the SEC want to rectify that.
Which is kind of smart if you think about it, because what does the SEC do with its morning window?
Yeah, they put – you get a whole lot of it's the old Jefferson Pilot hangover that you get a whole lot of Kentucky, Mississippi State, and Vandy.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're going to go best on best, SEC best game, Big Ten best game, who's going to win the ratings war?
The last couple of years, it's been the noon kickoff on Fox.
Well, my point is, what if you made the noon kickoff going up against the SEC 2:30 or night spot? You see what I'm saying?
Well, I do, but they've cornered the market on that window. And I mean, Sankey would be a fool to be reactionary to the Big Ten at this point, because then you admit you were wrong about something.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I think the Big Ten made a smart move in that case by going and grabbing a window and saying, okay, I don't know if we're going to own the night window or the afternoon window against the SEC, but we'll own this one. Yes, I think here's the question I have for you, Jay. How often does ESPN in a game day situation look up and go, okay, we've got Oklahoma. Yeah, Oklahoma, Michigan, it's a big game for both teams at that point for a lot of reasons. But do you look down and say, okay, we're going to come back to Norman on X week or X week or X week? We got a lot of options on the bingo card to go to Norman later, or maybe to involve Michigan. How much does that factor in? Or do you just take the best game at that point and say, hey, we don't know what's happening down the line. We're going to go ahead and lock it in right here?
You take the highest profile game at that point. Because we've seen a whole lot in recent years. They get to the back half, and didn't they go to Liberty one week when they were undefeated? I think they went to Navy one week. I know they went to like North Dakota State one week.
Yeah.
Just picking and choosing to share the wealth and have storylines. Look, the only thing I know is, one, McAfee's going to say something that makes me laugh, and something that makes me go, he should have said that. And then I also know that there's going to be a Washington State flag somewhere in the audience. And the rest of it, I also know this. It was time for Lee Corso to put that. I mean, hey, don't get me wrong. His shtick helped make it. And he was as valuable, if a lot of people want to admit it or not, to ESPN branding college football as one of their go-tos, as Vital was early in the days that they branded college basketball. But in the grand scheme of things, man, it became hard to watch. And that's as politely as I can put it.
Well, when your 11-year-old son says, hey, I want to watch this to see who puts on the helmet, when you've got a guy in his 80s that can still appeal at that level, that tells you the staying power of what he did. But I agree, and I like the way they're doing it too. Let him have one more game, and then just, you don't have to discuss the elephant in the room. You send the guy out with honor, and everybody wins.
I agree.
Okay. Next up, I know we got some comments. Anything in here you want to hit? I know there's some stuff about potentially Mateer getting knocked around pretty good in the SEC, health being an issue. That's a potential topic. I wanted to hit Kentucky at some point today because I think it's an interesting year for Mark Stoops. And I thought the way that he approached his media day session was sort of telling. So I'll let you pick the next.
All right. Well, I love the question about Mateer because that guy is getting way more love than I expected. Mm-hmm. We mentioned, I think it was either yesterday or Tuesday in our our lunch recaps about SEC Media Days that Greg McElroy has him as the best quarterback in the SEC. And this is an SEC that's probably going to have 2 of the first 3 quarterbacks drafted. And neither of them, at least until this love fest has started, were even whispered to be John Mateer. Now, there's a desperation factor. There's a familiarity factor. He comes with Arbuckle from Washington State as his coordinator. So not only does he already know the offense, he can help everybody else learn the offense. But I was damn impressed with that kid's swag on every podium and with every microphone put in front of him yesterday. And now, look, I completely understand, Bo. It's easy to win the news conference. It really is. It doesn't take a rocket scientist how to figure that out. You say what you know people want to hear. You talk about taking your lineman to Hibachi and picking up the check because you got 6 figures in NIL. But I'll go back to something I've already referenced. Brent Venables is on a hot as blazes seat, and he looked pretty doggone calm through the course of his time with the media yesterday.
Yeah, well, look, I have some questions about John Mateer too. And it all goes back to this, he's got more experience. Well, a lot of these guys are getting their first test of playing time, and certainly at this level. Remember, this was a guy that didn't play much his first 2 years. And against a Pac-2 schedule, where you play whoever you can play, I don't think they really played a real opponent last year until week 8. That was Boise. In that game, he throws for 327 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick, and runs 20 for 28. They get beat 45-24. I mean, I guess the next best games he plays, he's 17-24 for 246, 1-1 against Washington, runs for 62, and then Texas Tech, which I don't think was an okay team without much of a defense. He's 9-19 for 115, 1-1. Now he does run 21 for $197, and I'm guessing they got ahead and didn't have to throw. But hey, I get the numbers were gaudy, right? I mean, he accounted for more touchdowns, I think, last year than any quarterback in college football.
He did.
But you dig in a little bit to the better teams, and the numbers come back down to earth a little bit. Now, look, Cam Ward played an incarnate word, then went to Washington State, then went on to become the number 1 draft pick at Miami. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but I'm just saying we've talked a lot about what he's done and the talent, but he's not done a lot against the kind of teams he's going to be seeing in this league.
Completely fair. Completely fair. But that's also completely fair for Arch, and it is completely fair for – Jackson Arnold was not good last year at Oklahoma. There are reasons to have question marks around a lot of these guys. His stats at least look more eye-popping. And Bo's generating content. It's like he's been in our production meeting, because his statement here is Marcel Reed will outshine Mateer by a country mile. Look, I'm a Marcel Reed fan. I think that kid, but he has got to show improvement in his progressions, and that's going to have to be noticeable and decisive, because at times when his first read was not there, he struggled.
Yeah. He was an interesting prospect. He came up in my area, Nashville, and as a sophomore, he was supposed to be the next big thing. And then it just kind of leveled off, and he just kind of became an afterthought, who got thrust into playing time last year in College Station. So I'm interested to see where that goes. Certainly, he lost his bell cow guy with him last year, and that really hurt their offense. So you get Bell back in the backfield, I think that makes him better. But, that's a guy we're not talking about a lot, Jay, is Marcel. We're talking about all these quarterbacks, and boy, is a beauty pageant of talented quarterbacks. And we've talked about most of them, but I think Reed is not a guy that we've given a lot of love to, and he led his team to some pretty big wins a year ago.
He did, and a couple of tough losses, which was really defined the back half of A&M's schedule when they look like through 8 weeks, they look like a playoff team.
Yeah.
But as an Auburn graduate, I'd rather have Marcel Reed than Jackson Arnold.
Yeah. And Malik brings up a good point. He kind of came in that Florida game last year as an unknown, where they hit Florida at a difficult point of Florida's season. So there's that. Hey, leave us your questions, your comments, your super chats. Those are always appreciated. Leave us a like and a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. That helps the channel, helps us get noticed as we try to build our football audience here. Jay Greeson, next topic, I'll let you pick it. You can find it from the chat. You can find it from the show notes ahead of time. You can pick one out of thin air, but the floor is yours here.
In regards to today, I'm real curious about what is the ceiling for Kentucky?
Yeah.
I mean, is that the Vegas odds have them at 4.5 wins on the season, and the smart money's on the under. And we've bounced around that Stoops, even at the end of this season, will be owed $37 million, just him, in a buyout, not staff, not what it's going to cost to replace him. So then you're looking at a $50 million decision. So I don't know how hot his seat is, especially when he can walk into the end of year, even at 4-8, and even if they go winless in the league. What is he going to be? I mean, he's still going to be able to say, I'm the winningest football coach all time here.
Yeah. I go back and forth on Mark Stoops because I think on one hand, he has brought Kentucky to more success over more years than anybody's done maybe ever at that program. They haven't been great. They've not been a playoff contender, but they've been really good. And even in a bad year last year, they more or less knocked, we didn't know it at the time, but knocked Ole Miss out of the playoff. He's also done a lot of it against the Eastern Michigans of the world. And that's what I would do too if I were there. But it's a hard job, man. It's one that nobody's ever stayed in long and won big at. And here's one thing, okay? When I look at can you build a program, one of the number one things, if not the number one thing, is can I tell you from year to year, what are you trying to make your program into? And I feel like Mark Stoops has leaned into that blue-collar, we're going to be big and physical on defense, and we're going to beat you that way. And it has worked for him. I mean, say what you want about Kentucky. After he had a couple of years to rebuild, what was it? Was it Joker Phillips? Was that who the guy was before him? It was so bad, I've already forgotten. Give him a pass on those first couple of years. The worst thing that you can say about Mark Stoops is that his teams that missed were disappointing, not bad. Like, you're not bad and beat Ole Miss. They were just disappointing last year. Now, it got really ugly offensively, and that's the flip side of this discussion, too, that we'll have in a minute. But I feel like when you've got a guy who's got a blueprint on how to do it at a place where football is second fiddle by a pretty good amount, I would rather ride with that and trust the track record. And I know that's probably not a super popular take in Lexington right now, than take whatever's behind door B.
Just as long as they're realistic with their expectations. I mean, Kentucky expects to be in the Final Four every year. I mean, I've seen some preseason basketball conjecture, and God bless him, he turned it into a cottage industry, but Joe Lunardi's putting out way too early bracket projections in the summer.
Yeah.
And I saw one on Big Blue Nation or Wildcat Chat or whatever it is that they had Kentucky as a 2 seed, and everybody was ticked off. I mean, do we ever expect Kentucky to get to Atlanta? Do the Kentucky fans here expect Kentucky to be a serious contender to get to Atlanta?
Why would you?
I don't know. I mean, I can't. I mean, you always want to win, but as long as you're competitive and you pull off 2 upsets a year, and every other year you get to the Birmingham Bowl, that's as good as Kentucky has ever had. And this league is so unbelievably cutthroat for those 12 Saturdays in the fall. And again, hey, I'm not bashing. I'm really not, because you have established a culture around your basketball program that we will run you, John Calipari, with having NBA draft picks every year. And you know why? Because you're not winning in March enough. And there you go. That's the standard you've set. And I know Bo is sitting here thinking to himself, praise be to God we didn't hire that guy.
Yeah. My issue with them right now is they can't figure out the offense. They're changing coordinators every year. The quarterback situation never works out. I mean, he lost maybe their best returning player, Barry and Brown, left to be a backup at LSU. That doesn't scream endorsement of what's around the corner.
Hey, that's as big a win the 12th man got by making certain Stoops did not participate as what Vol Twitter did with who did they run off?
Oh, it was Greg Schiano.
Yes, which would have been an unmitigated disaster.
I don't know. I think Schiano's a really good football coach.
Yeah, there are a lot of really good football coaches and a whole lot of really good football places that come to the SEC and look like Brian Damn Kelly.
Yeah, okay. I mean, maybe a bad fit. I get it. I'm just, it is what it is. All right. Yeah, I'm curious this year. The other thing that's like when they were last good, Ray Davis was kind of carrying the show for them. The other part of their identity, they were big and physical up front on the offensive line, and that slipped last year too.
Well, they're going to have to be physical. You know what? Stoop needs to turn the page. Zag when everybody else is zigging. And what I mean by that is go hire Navy's offensive coordinator and bring in a true wing T quarterback.
You could do worse. I mean, it's not easy to recruit to, but Kentucky.
It's a heck of a lot easier now. Hey, I watch 15 high school football games a year with my own eyes. And there's a transition happening that there are a lot of schools who can't find enough offensive linemen and don't have enough perimeter playmakers who are transitioning back to the wing T because you don't prepare for it. It's like the documentary that's coming out either tonight or sometime later this week on the SEC network about the wishbone. The wishbone was so different that you couldn't prepare for it. And then when everybody ran the wishbone, that's all you prepared against. So then they had to change over again. And Brandon, I will look that up. I will 100% look that up because, again, I knowingly and openly admitted I don't know the kid. It just appears to be a red flag to me.
Yeah. Well, he was also playing for a coach who's as bad a human being as he is a good coach. So I can't necessarily blame anybody for wanting to get out of James Franklin's shadow. Ask me how I know. But anyway, I don't think that's the worst idea, and I'll tell you why, okay? Again, where's his identity built, Jay? It's on defense, right?
Correct.
And it's in the trenches. You spend your dollars there. I'm not saying they can't get playmakers to Kentucky, right? Again, you had a Dane Key, you had a Barry and Brown. But that's been the exception to the rule. And they didn't work out at Kentucky because you could not figure the rest of it out. it's a different thing what you're proposing, but look what Vanderbilt did last year. And every time there's an opening at Vanderbilt, Jay, here's what happens. Hey, we should go to the option. Let's go run the option. Let's go find a service academy coach. Which, hey, look, that's all great until the time you've got to replace your coach. And then you leave the next guy who's almost certainly not going to be a triple option guy to take what's left over and what's going to be by definition a rebuild, because when Vanderbilt gets rid of a coach, it's usually because he failed. And then you make it that much tougher on the next guy. But Vanderbilt found something last year with Diego Pavia that can translate a little bit better than the triple option. It's not quite that, but it's enough of it to keep teams off balance. Maybe that's your blueprint if you're Mark Stoops. You spend your time and energy where you're good, which is developing toughness in the trenches. And they've had some good corners and linebackers too. And take what is your weakness and just throw something different at the problem.
Because what you're doing now and finding retreads like Calzada is not going to work.
Yeah. Well, and okay, look at Mike Leach's career, right? He made a living of going to places that were bottom half of the league and doing big things with an offense that people didn't see, and it was fun and it was attractive. I don't know what that looks like, but I feel like they need to be making a pivot with the offense in Lexington along the lines of what we've gone into.
Well, he could do way worse than giving a phone call to Paul Johnson and saying, "Hey, man, how do we get into doing something different that is going to give us a schematic, maybe not an edge because you're not going to be more physical than a lot of those teams you're going to see on Saturdays in an SEC slate, but at least a fighting chance."
Yeah. All right, we're going to wrap it up here in a couple minutes. Jay Greeson, where would you like to go? We got a comment on the screen that's kind of interesting. But by the way, let me wrap up one thing on Mark Stoops. I did mean to go here. And then we need to give out a shout out to a sponsor or two. I did think his demeanor today was interesting. I don't know if you got a chance to hear him speak, but he got asked about the playoff and stuff like that. Said, "Hey, man, I got my own problems. I'm not paying a lot of attention to that." And he talked some about like how hard the job was when he took it over, which he wasn't wrong. But to me, that was a guy that was very much trying to refocus some attention and say, "Hey, look, I'm here to put my nose to the grindstone and remind people of the past and what he'd done and what he'd built," which tells me, I don't know, maybe they don't feel great about what's coming.
I don't think you could feel great about what's coming.
All right. Jay Greeson, when you need to keep your cold drinks cold and your hot drinks hot, where do you go?
I go to GameTime Sidekicks, and I'll tell you this. We're about to play 7 softball games in Knoxville, Tennessee this weekend in 95-degree heat. And with the exception of my daughter's softball bag, which she's going to need to pitch, the most important thing we pack are our GameTime Sidekick cups, because they are a godsend in this heat belt that has become July.
Yeah, I mean, these things are amazing. I get a 40-ounce tumbler every morning. I drop ice and cold water in it. A lot of times I've still got ice late in the day. You talked about how it keeps your coffee. The construction is what makes it special, the steel walls. These things are a work of art. They're beautiful. The logo printing is done in Knoxville. GameTimeSidekicks.com. Use your promo code SE16 to get 20% off your entire order. If your team has won a championship lately, like LSU did in baseball, they've got commemorative merchandise for that. In fact, they've got multiple commemorative items. You can see the first one is LSU's most recent national title. The second one is all the ones they've won. So they've got some real cool stuff that you can't find elsewhere. Help the people who help us out. Go to GameTimeSidekicks.com. Use SE16 to get 20% off your entire order. Jay Greeson, also ROKFORM, our other sponsor. Cannot wait to get their stuff. I'm a dude who goes through cell phone cases, screen protectors, make a couple of orders every year at Amazon. I'm looking forward to get something durable that holds up. My order of those is coming soon. And also, they've got a fantastic speaker, Bluetooth speaker for golfers that you can just attach to the side of your car. They've got all kinds of cell phone accessories and that kind of stuff. If you like to keep your expensive iPhone or whatever in good shape, go there because they are going to do it ROKFORM.com. All right, on the way out, got a couple minutes left. What have you got left for us, Jay?
I'll be interested to see the pecking order at quarterback when they announce the preseason All-SEC teams. That's normally, I think, released on Friday after everybody there submits their vote. I'll also be real interested to see who is lined up behind Texas and Georgia in the predicted order of finish. Not that that's worth the paper it's written on, but I would like to see it. Or do they follow some of the other trends? Some conferences, the Big 12, for example, did not release a predicted order of finish because they don't want to slot people and then allow that to be used against in the transfer portal era used against folks later in the year of, well, so-and-so was picked 11th in the SEC before the season. Did they just overachieve?
Yeah. I got a little pushback. I feel like you left the team out of that top tier. And you know, because I mentioned, does Alabama, is perception Alabama just doesn't belong in that top tier with Georgia and Texas? Because I don't think that's what I believe, but that may be what the universe believes.
I've got Alabama 4th in this league. I think
really?
LSU better than Alabama. Yes.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I would push back on that some. But is that a Ty Simpson thing? Because, yes. I mean, the rest of the roster is pretty stacked. Okay, fair enough.
I mean, the divide, and not that it's the end-all, be-all, but the athletics quarterback tiers thing was done off of comments and ballots from more than 40 coaches and college at the college level. Nussmeier's 2, and Ty Simpson's 48. So at the most important position in the game, because it's not like LSU's going to trot out a whole bunch of 2-star overachievers.
Yeah, I think, to me, I think Nussmeier's got to be your 1, just because these guys don't have a lot of track record.
Now the overall one in the athletic was Cade Klubnik, and the SC Scout guy Sellers was 3rd overall. In the athletics quarterback tier list, followed by Lagway, and then John Mateer. So the SEC had 2, 3, 4, 5.
See, if I'm submitting, I think I'm going Nussmeier 1, Sellers 2. You could reverse that. I wouldn't push back a lot. 3 is where I get lost, because you go with what DJ Lagway showed and go, okay, this guy was all world coming out of high school. Do you go with Arch Manning for obvious reasons?
Not over DJ Lagway.
Well, no, I don't either, because Lagway at least proved you something a year ago. And not that Arch has been bad when he's played, but I think we're there. So that's where I go. I just think, to me, we went through the game log of what Mateer did and who he did it against. I'm just a little bit more on, let's prove it against these teams before I anoint you there. Not that it couldn't happen, because it might well happen, but I just can't do it until we see it.
All right.
Put
her up.
We're out of here for today. We've got previews coming up. I think we'll have our Arkansas preview coming tonight, which is why we didn't talk about them today, of their season. I'm looking forward to do that. I had a good conversation with my man Andrew Hutchinson to get some intel on their roster, so we'll be plenty prepared. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you don't mind, leave us a thumbs up on this video. That helps our analytics. Subscribe if you have not, and subscribe on all our podcast platforms. And, yeah, Leave us a good rating there, too. For Jay Greeson, I'm Chris Lee. Thanks for watching our football content at Southeastern. God bless you. We'll see you again soon.